So hi everybody and welcome back. This is a kind of unicorn you can find in model kits, and I really didn't expect to find it also quite a good price, in in an online Facebook group I found it, and this is related to the E9 BMW 3.5 CSL, the Batmobile, and I already made back in time this model. I think it was something like it could absolutely be today about 30 years ago, something like that. Because this was a box that you could find. Also, this was already used at the time when I found it, and I was nearly sure that it was absolutely impossible to find it back. This company from Japan, Tokyo Marui, that company, Tokyo Marui Company. Tokyo Marui Plastic Model Co. Limited, Japan. It's a company that I already remember in the early 90s, when I was working in the local Revel dealer, like a software technician. That was my very first job when I was 19 years old, and I wanted to start to work in the modeling sector, and I found this job to this dealer. It was the Italian importer for Tokyo Marui stuff, but it was already a company very well appreciated for the soft air gun, because the owner of Tokyo Marui was an enthusiast fan of military stuff at first, so handguns or rifles and so on. The company is still active, I think they produce still the most quality soft air weapon gun toys, they are named like weapon, but in reality they are air gun, just firing the plastic bullet, the BB 6mm they call it, the balls, the little balls in plastic, but the replica of the handgun and of the rifle, of the machine guns, is absolutely very, very well done, and also I know, talking with the owner of the company, that he had a freak because he was a guest in Italy to this other company where I was working for. So he had the opportunity to have a brief talk to him. And I don't remember honestly if it was the real owner or just one of the boss of the company, but I remember that he was mostly focused about anyway military modeling. So the idea was to recreate kind of Tamiya level of items. This is anyway related to early 80s stuff and so on. So they produced quite a few models, that you can see around the box art of this unicorn model. That is that one, So we have a Porsche RSR Martini that is absolutely the Nitto version, so it's still the car provided by Esci. This original and very strange BMW CSL, an M23 McLaren in 124 that I never seen, a 312T that I never seen it around, the same for the other. Instead, this last one I seen was the BB 512, named as it was a 365, so basically the same car, but it's the smaller carburetor version, and the Countach LP 500, that was also reboxed by Ari. So basically this company used to mostly made rebox of other stuff, I don't know about the Formula cars, but I'm sure that that Porsche RSR, it is the same model that coming from the mold of Nitto and Esci, that I already built it 2 or 3 times, and it's currently the brand new, we are talking of items coming from the 80s, we said, but that's a model that you can find like a brand new item in the daily reproduction of 2023, exactly that car. So, you know what I think about this kind of reissues and trying to scam the modeler, proposing something that is a new item, that it is not at all a new item, Instead, this BMW that very often is mismatched with a similar box that you can find on the market. That is the one, because like we said, they used to rebox stuff from other. So a lot of people think that this model is the same one that you can find in the RE box. There is a similar BMW, the real series of this car is named the E9, and was one of the nicest shape of the big BMW. This was BMW of the 70s, and was the nicest coupe. It was the the godfather of the generation that before was the CSL, then became the Series 6, 635, CSI, M3, M6, and then became the Series 8. That is still going on, like M8 in the GT Endurance series and so on. So the generation, this was the big coupe from BMW that they nearly never, if we don't just consider the series of Chris Bangle, the Series 6, they never declinated this model into the cabrio and convertible version. Just in the late 90s and so on, they wanted to do this car, this type of, this level of very, very big and huge coupe, like a convertible one, but it never existed. The CSL made like a convertible car, so it was just proposed like a coupe, very similar also to the Jaguar. The XJC, you know, is extremely similar in the A and in the C pillar. It's very, very similar, this area with the Jaguar, you know. BMW was extremely aggressive, you know. I also have a real BMW, you know. It's old timer now. It's an 36 Cabrio, but the line of I think mostly of the older BMW are extremely nice. Also, honestly, the very, very modern one are also incredibly nice. What I don't like so much, it is the medium type that they made 10 years ago, something like that, but they still didn't find the definition of what they wanted to do. You know, there was pretty nice vehicle like the M3 E92, the coupe from the E92 car, you know. It was the BMW, the M3 with the V8, but personally I have never liked them so much. You know, I prefer the older one, the real old, like this E9 was, and the super modern one, because it just seen yesterday an M4 on the road, and honestly it's absolutely an amazing car. Very, very it really communicates the power feeling of a real extremely powerful car, you know. This model so was just made in 1/24 scale by this Tokyo Marui and from the RE. But if you look closely at the pictures of the model, you know, the RE version, it is the version proposed with the side air intake on this part. You know, instead, the real Batmobile was proposed with different body styles. So you can have the one with the air intake and much larger and squared side over the rear wheel, and also this version. You know, the point is that different from what many modeler thinks, the model are not absolutely the same. Not absolutely the same. I also had the RE model because I didn't, as I say, this was a model that I built up 30 years ago, so I barely remember the box art. At the time I was neither so much into car modeling, I was mostly focused on military modeling, so this was a pleasure extra that I wanted to take from my military production. I remember that I had to change also the time the wheels and the rims because they were not matching and not fitting, so as you can see down there, I think the wheels are coming from a Porsche, I think, something like that. Yeah, it should be the tires coming from, I think it was from the Tamiya Porsche GT2, you know, and also the rims, I remember that it was a little bit tricky to find the proper rims, but you see that it is not something standard from the box. That is not the end of the real RE model. Look how basic was the underside of the model, you know. There is still the space for the electric motor. Now we will take a closer look inside the box of what's inside, so we'll have this interesting overview of this nothing that there is inside that. And so that's it. This was the lower part. As you can see, it's exactly the same type of very, very easy detail, just not to say no detail at all, that you can find also in the Fujimi model, and also that kind of tricky way to close the two shells of the model, you know. So you have really to invent something. Mostly, already at the time I was focused in mostly give to the car a feeling, an appeal about the setup, you know. I wanted to communicate a setup. What I clearly made like a big mistake back in time, remember 30 years old model, it was that probably the size of the rear tire is wrong. Maybe the front one was still acceptable, you know, but the rear one is too modern, look like a lowrider car of today, you know. The real car didn't absolutely had it. I have still to study better the Batmobile to understand what kind of measures did they fit in the reality, you know. But surely this was clearly a wheel and a tire coming from other series, that can be maybe suitable for a Porsche 935, something like that, but absolutely not for an E9. Until today, I didn't scrap the model because the level that I finished this model was absolutely not satisfying me. Today I think I can do a little better models. And despite I applied the photo etch, it was some of the very first, I think it was from modelers, the photo etched wiper that you can see here, as well as the front hooks on the front bonnet, of course, in a mistaken position. This is neither matching to the period, to the correct period bonnet lockers. So I have to completely to think to scrap the model off and repaint and rebuild, probably also with a different livery. But it was absolutely this box, as you can see, number 87. It was the Facchetti car, Finotto, Moore and Facchetti. This was the Pirates. I think it was, I didn't study, remember, the model. I just wanted to build it up like it was, but it was absolutely this. So it was not at all the RE model. The RE model have been reissued with different decal. That is interesting because with that probably you can make the Calder art car based on the E9. Very, very nice in the look. It's an art car, so it's something like Andy Warhol masterpieces and so on. So it's extremely attractive and nice to have such vehicle in the collection. And so what's inside the box? Inside the box, I found, as I said, this box from a cool guy, that is a photographer of racing cars. And it made an auction he made an auction for both of these models, this one and the RE model. And people, honestly, in the comments was quite scared because when he showed the pictures of what's inside of the model, mostly correctly, he placed this image. As you can see, the original rubber tire, the slick tires, Dunlop tires, are completely melted. You see that the box is still sealed. This is a factory sealed from Marui, so nobody never opened it. You cannot blame that something happened here, but it is simply the quality of the rubber that they had back in time. So that's why I say when I produce models with solid and rigid resin tire, this shit will never happen to you with one of the models with a solid plastic or resin or 3D printed tires. So this happened, and of course when you make an auction about the model and so on, the people look whatever they have in the model. So basically it's nothing because you have a shell pretty decent in the measure and in the shape. Then you see the wheels, and you already understand that straight from the box you cannot finish this model because with this issue you cannot do so much. It's also a rear one, so it's not so easy to sell this stuff. And add to this the fact that the details are basically not existing. You just have a very, very simple plastic plus, as we say, quite very good quality electric motor if you have any kind of use for that. I know that in jail many of these motors were so reliable that they used it to do tattoo machines, from people I know. And they told me if you have something from Tamiya, from the Japanese company, the Japanese electric motor inside is extremely reliable to make tattoo pen. I'm not so interested in the stuff, so I don't care about that. So this is the nothing that you get inside the model. Here it is. As you can see, there is just a main hub for the seat. There is a pretty nice, this I remember, yeah. There is a pretty nice helmet, a little out of scale, but completely correct for the period, for the 70s, And nothing else. I mean, it's just part of the roll cage, just part of it. And thanks God the stuff here was still sealed from factory box, so it's still protected and not scratched for the transparent part, despite it's quite thick. So you have to do something about that or make that in vacuum form, but you see that the original part is still matching, is still looking decently on the model, didn't become yellowish. And this is a model that had a very complicated life. Before it was in my showcase in the shop in Milano, then in the second shop that I had in Milano, there for many years in a box in my garage because I didn't care so much about this. And then recently when I started to get back on this type of model, I take it back to the showcase, but then I see that the level was absolutely not as something that I wanted to expect. So basically, when you find for, if you search for this model and you find it, the basically what you pay here, always keep it in mind, because this is a model that I think is worth about $100 now, something like that, because it's unique, so it's extremely rare, and nobody today never reissued this model, even less the E9. You can find the Porsche SR, as we can see, and you can find, and that's coming from the remodel, the LP400, but about the Lambo LP400 there, always remember that you can also have a very nice body made from Tamiya about LP400. I think it was the box printed in blue. I think I still have it, so if you just are looking for a body shell and 4 decent wheel, the Tamiya is a stunner, so it's absolutely the model to get. So also for that model there is a nonsense to search for it. Instead for the E9 there is still sense, because this body is absolutely nicely done and nicely made in the proportion. You know what happens if you build up the RE version, despite it's a slightly different version, is that the proportion of the shape of the E9, this was an extremely silhouette car. You know, the shape was absolutely nice and elegant in the original. I think the designer was somebody Italian, if I'm not wrong. You know, there is the history, of course, on Wikipedia about the designer of these vehicles. You know, and also the front end, you know, is molded in a very nice way, because all the part, mostly the kidneys, the BMW logo that was present in the BMW typical front end, is molded separately, so you can make much more detail. It's much more easy also to paint and to finish, you know. And also the side air intakes that have been retaken over the model, like for example the M3 E46 have the same idea coming from the E9. This grill here, you know, this is a Le Mans light that you can also, I didn't do it there, I remember, because I didn't know neither what was that for. This is a light for the number that they used in races as Le Mans, you know, so it should be absolutely betterly done. But the overall look of the E9 is absolutely taken here, is absolutely the correct one. So it's nearly worth it to have this kind of body shell, like a racing copy of this. You know, I wish that I could have something like this for the Jaguar XJC car, you know, the coupe from Jaguar. But I never find it. I just find a 3D print from a guy that was proposing this like the masterpiece that he did, and it was a garbage. You know, I bought it and it was 50 euros completely trashed, because you have absolutely no use for that with all the lines of the molding. So shit happens, you know, shit happens. So also I take my garbage sometimes, not only you guys. So it's a common problem, this one. This is the line of it, you know. And as I said, also the rear lights must be made better, you know, because what you can do here, that basically another issue of this model is that what I found inside the model, forget to mention, was this one. Instead, I remember that this was not the original decal work, despite there was the logo of Tokyo Marui anyway over, you know. I think it's the same stuff. Looking at the box if we find a similar idioma over, but I think it's the same stuff. I don't know so well Japanese, I don't remember Japanese, you know, but I don't think this is the proper decal sheet of the car. Also because on the box art, as you can see, they show up a car that was finished with that decal sheet, you know. So you have basically the same livery. So the livery is correct, the BMW colors, the M Motorsport, M department color are respected. What is not respected is the number of the car. We have a 42, car is 87, original decal was 87. Plus all the names of the pilots are completely missing over this other. You know, they have different name, Gross, Posey, De Fierland. I don't know the name of the pilot, no, but you see clearly that the car was different, was a different vehicle. So what I absolutely have to do here, it was, and it was basically what I was searching for, to find the really way to make it in the proper size, the decals of the CSL, to design them better and to make it like a brand new decal sheet. Mostly to save that model, because if I have this stuff, I have basically now two models, and if I can finish with the proper decal sheet, I can finish that in the correct ways I could do today with better wheels. Probably they must be anyway, even if the model have the damaged tire and that terrible and ugly BBS wheels, I will probably ask for a 3D modern copy of them, because the wheels are so important over this model. So I think that is something that back in time was absolutely an issue. I remember that there was a nightmare, because also in that model, despite it was much more younger at the time, also there the wheels were already melting, and I had no use for that. That's why I end in a solution like the tire. I remember the tire mostly from Tamiya, but as you can see, the wheel is different here, so the wheel is not matching properly. As well as they made the drawing over the box art, always remember that these drawings are made by Japanese artists. Being a Japanese car is mostly Japanese artists, and usually they are more correct than the model that you can see inside. So for example, also this car had the real wheel arch that was exactly fitting like the Porsche that they just did, like the R6, so it was not at all round like that one. The same issue from the front one, you see, this is correct, that's not correct. So it's something that you can absolutely work over. So the point is that until today, if not Mikhail Petrenko, that incredible designer from Russia, was preparing a full 3D model of the street E9. He like a lot to do the street cars, not the racers of these models. And he do amazing job. He really do amazing stuff. He and his brother, they are really, really cool guys. They're Russians. They absolutely know what they are doing. They study so well the pitch, so it's absolutely lovely to see how they can end the model. And he was making, until some years ago, I was following him in automotive forum, the modeling section, what it was his work, and he was really, really forward in making the street version of the E9. But if you, like me, prefer the racing versions and so on, you have to go for a Batmobile. So the Batmobile body is that one, and it's extremely hard to convert a street car, even more if it's an art masterpiece like Mikhail Petrenko is going to do of the street car. I will absolutely get it, because it's absolutely a wonderful vehicle and so on, but it's not the Batmobile, it's not the Calder car. So with this Batmobile you can think to modify into the version that are repurposed, but I think that this body is more interesting than what Ari proposes. It's much more particular. So you have just to study carefully the picture of what you are going to do. I'm just so happy that I could find, basically, the price was expensive, but not too expensive, of course, with expedition and so on, you anyway grow up in prices, but the body, I remember that the body of the Marui car was absolutely a standard. So I wanted this body. Plus the theme of the BMW M logo, instead of designing it from zero, because that it could be extremely complicated, even more if if you're not the designer, the original designer. I'm not. I have a guy that's making these liveries for me, very skilled, Andrew, very, very skilled guy. But if you don't have the body in his hands, it's extremely hard to do kind of decals that runs like this one all over the body, covering all over the car. So we will see about that. I was just mostly searching desperately for this body, as well as another unicorn that little by little I'm sure that I will find. And I had it back in time and I sold it. It was the Porsche 936, the first edition, the black one. Also there you don't have basically anything. It is still a Marui body, and there is absolutely nothing, just a body. You can also modify that coming from the Tamiya box. That is, I have 2 or 3 of the Tamiya 936, but Tamiya made the Le Mans racer, instead that Marui made the very first car, the black one, presentation and the short track configuration. So it was slightly different, in my opinion, much more aggressive in the front end. So that's it. I love this BMW so much, and I'm anyway happy, even if the model arrived damaged with the wrong decals and just garbage parts, not considering the body, but I'm absolutely in love with the model. So if you find this unicorn, you absolutely have to grab it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next.